Concern is that the bar for tenure in the teaching profession is just so low right now. In many other professions, you don't earn tenure until you demonstrate proficiency or accomplishment. And currently in teaching, in many states, tenure is awarded very much automatically after 2 or 3 years of teaching.
When you're still pretty new.
You're pretty novice in teaching when you're a first, second, or third year teacher. So again, we don't believe that tenure is the problem. We just think the bar needs to be very high and that there needs to be rigorous standards by which we measure teachers and that they're granted tenure on.
Is it a kind of a nice carrot maybe to lure people into the teaching profession?
You know, we don't hear that. Rarely when we talk to alternative route certification candidates who are coming in, do we hear that tenure in and of itself at least is sort of their draw to the education field. I think it's very much a desire to do meaningful work, particularly for mid-career professionals who have been working on Wall Street, for example.
So with big changes are occurring there in Washington and New York in particular, that the Board of Education is now being bypassed by the City Council and the Mayor. So with the Board of Education being bypassed, is this something we're going to see throughout the rest of the country?
Right now there are a number of governance structures for school systems. Washington, D.C. and New York City currently are under mayoral control, so the superintendent or chancellor reports directly to the mayor. In some school districts, there are appointed school boards, and in other school districts, there are elected school boards. I think you see, again, ranges of effectiveness with all of these types of strategies. I don't know that this happening in one particular district is going to lead to a nationwide movement. And I think as parents, it's important to, regardless of the governance structure, to be very involved in the school system. There are still going to be outlets for you to understand what's going on in the school system and opportunities for you to engage and voice your opinions and your concerns. And regardless of who is the boss, at the end of the day, you know, it's very much the parents' responsibility to be engaged in that process.
And I think it's interesting point. It sort of goes to education being local, and that's a good thing about it because it can reflect the needs of that particular community. Like, I don't really see an advantage in my small town of 13,000 people with just 200 kids at my children's elementary school. To me, that's almost like a private school setting. I don't see any kind of advantage that would come skipping the sort of Board of Ed layer. And to me, that's kind of alarming because I've always been involved in my school's PTA. And I think the Board of Ed does play a significant role. You can get bad Board of Eds occasionally, but then it's up to the parents to follow what's going on. In my town, the Board of Ed meets twice a month, and honestly, I don't make every meeting, but whenever I go, I do learn things that you don't learn at the PTA meeting necessarily, which can tend to be a bunch of moms socializing sometimes. And
nothing wrong with that.
No, but they can get long, and you're looking at your watch going, okay, it's 10 o'clock, I'd like to get out of here. But the Board of Ed in my town anyways runs very efficiently. They've got their agenda, it's filmed, so, and I think many communities do that now. So if you can't make a meeting, there's public access cable, and even on the web, you can watch and see what's happening. You really can make a difference. There's been teachers, bad teachers, fired in my town because of PTA pressure on the Board of Ed. I could not say enough.
I've a young child. He's just going on 14 months. And
Not there yet.
I know. But it is something that people have spoken to me about, you know, where are you going to have Jackson go to school and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, how do young families who are at the right time, you know, looking for a school, choose the right school for their kids?
I actually, when we lived in the city and we decided to come to the suburbs, this town had a good reputation. Now, our realtor was the one who gave us the most information on schools. Now, I don't know that that's the most reliable source of information.
Yeah, but someone on the ground, you need to have that information.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to do it all over again, I think I would want to know where the high school graduates go to college in your community, and I think I'd want to meet the principal of the elementary school, get a feel for it. I don't think, they're public schools. You know, they can't bar anybody from going in there. I'm sure it wouldn't be a problem. I wish I had thought to do that, and maybe you can take a page from my book.
Yeah, I need the advice.
I would absolutely do that. I mean, as it turns out, I ended up in a nice community that works for my kids, and I think the education, we do pay pretty high taxes here, but you know, I'm satisfied with the education they're getting.
But you do hear a lot of people moving to certain areas because of
The reputation.
yeah.
Right.
You know, the one point that I would just like to reinforce here is that in this country, we shouldn't have to move neighborhoods or communities to send our children to a strong public school. That no matter where we live, we should be able to send our kids to a school that we're proud of. And what I would sort of just add on and really reinforce the messages that you just sent of what parents can do is that I would just really advise that parents get into their school buildings, talk to teachers, talk to the other parents. That's going to be the best window of access for you to understand what that school community looks like.
Talk to other parents.
That's right. Talk to parents and talk to the teachers, because back to the main point of the work that I do is that nothing matters more than the quality of the teacher. And as a parent, you're the best judgment of if you think the teacher and the style is a match for what you know about your child. Also, there are some resources often at the State Department of Education's or some school systems. They often have report cards on schools. In New York City, for example, the Department of Education actually has a report card on each one of its schools. So it allows you to compare and contrast various schools within a district based on some standard set of criteria. So it's just a little bit of a window of information for you.
Well, I guess, you know, the teachers are the most important role model when it comes to learning and academic, but it does start at home, doesn't it? I mean, it's the interest in reading, I would imagine, starts when I'm showing my baby the ABCs and reading his nursery rhymes to him. I mean, how important is it for the parent to take responsibility for those first building blocks?
I think you can, you know, show that you're interested in education by getting involved, because I think that speaks volumes. If my kids see me going to a PTA meeting, they know that it's important. Education is important.
But even prior to school.
Yes, but like there's always teachable moments, right? So as a mom, if you're conscious of, you know, even in the grocery store to a 4-year-old, you know, can you get mommy 5 apples kind of thing. Just to be aware of teachable moments. Or if they have a question, be sensitive. Send your mommy radar up. And if they're asking a question about gas prices, you know, maybe you can explain, you know, the very simple economics involved in that and that kind of stuff. You know, just being aware, I think, of teachable moments in everyday activities and throughout the entire day.
I'll just put on my former first grade teacher hat here. There are so many opportunities as a parent to engage your children in literacy. I focus primarily on teaching literacy, but point out features of books, point out road signs, take every opportunity to read, and ask your kids questions, because the foundation of reading comprehension happens by just questioning children, making them think about what might happen next in a story. So ask them to predict the ending. Ask them how what's going on in a story relates to their own life. It's actually a very fundamental skill for kids to be able to apply a book to themselves, and allows them to really grasp it in a new way. So capitalize on those opportunities from a very young age. I don't think you can ever start kids on reading too early.
I guess you're always trying to teach them as opposed to letting them figure it out for themselves, and by encouraging for them to think on their own. That's a good point. Yeah. Getting back to how we started the conversation, mentioning these statistics, 24 countries currently outscoring American schools in math, 20 countries outscoring in science, science and math being the most important aspects of industrialized progression. What does this mean for our students? What does this mean for America as a society in years to come, if this is the level of education that we've got?
What it says is that there is a staggering injustice in this country to how we educate our kids. And at the end of the day, these statistics mask the overwhelming problem of the achievement gap. By the end of high school, African American students on average have reading and math ability that is equal to 8th grade white students. At the end of the day, you know, the notion of the American dream is the idea that your kids can have a better life than you do. And to make this dream a reality, we have to make sure that all children in this country have access to an excellent education.
We have some questions from our audience that I'd like to pose to you both. Haha, this is a good one. Nancy from Brooklyn writes,